Aloha, this is Laura or Kawailehua with Lei Hulu Arts. Today I just wanted to go over measuring your papale for the right size hat band. I have a lot of folks that custom order hat bands and they don't know how to measure the brim of their hat so that the hat band will fit right. And there's a few things you need to know about your papale when you're ordering a hat band. So the first thing we got to do is measure around where the hat band's going to sit. So we just get a tape measure and we want to bring the tape measure close to the brim as such. And we just want to measure. So my hat band is my hat is 22 and a half. You see that? 22 and a half. So it goes from 0 to here. So 22 and a half is the size of my hat. This hat may be different from another hat, so we can check. So here's a pico ole style. Same thing. We'll measure around the base, just above the brim. And this one is 21 and a half. If I measured around my head is 21 and a half. So you can see, even though my head's the same size, different hats fit different ways depending on the angle of this brim here, the crown to the brim. So you want to measure that so you have the accurate size. So why is that important? Because when you do a custom order, if you have something like this, if you have a papale like this, and we know this one's 22 and a half, and say I see this beautiful lei and it's 25 inches. So how's that gonna fit on here? So if I put this 25-inch lei on my hat, it's way too big. This accent should be on the side, and if I put it on the side, then I have to move this, and then I have this big flap here. So sometimes you see people walking around and they have this big flap hanging off. Don't do that. You can make it nice by just pushing this down. And my hat bands are all closed with Velcro. So you see the Velcro here. So it should close, and there should be a little bit of an overlap. But if there's a lot of overlap, you can either use like a very fine pin like this and pin it through here, and it gets buried in the feathers, and so that keeps this from flapping. It looks much cleaner. Sometimes you can get a nice hat pin. Sometimes I will give a hat pin like this that folks can put in, and they can just put it through the layers like that, and that will hold it down and accent it a little bit with a little bling. So that's one thing that's important. The other thing is, how high is the crown on your papale? So this hat band is actually too big for this hat, and it would definitely be too big for this pico ole style. It's way too big because it covers almost the whole thing. I mean, some people like that. I mean, it's pretty. It's a nice pico ole, so it fits really nicely. But for a hat that has a small, shorter crown like this, you want to use something that's a little more compact. So I like to use this style, where it's a kamoi style. Kamoi, you can see, looks very nice. You can still see the construction or the pattern from that the weaver put in their crown here, or the rim. And then, or another one that's really nice is to use lokelani. I love lokelani especially for the ladies. It makes you just tie it in the back, and you can see it makes it look very pretty and feminine. So the height of the hat is important too. So sometimes I'll use a thinner or narrower hat band. You can see the difference between these two. This one's about 2 1/4 inch. This one's about 1 1/2. And so a smaller band on a hat like this will let the hat speak as well as the band, right? So you can see both. Some people like the really fat hat bands. If you have that, you gotta have one of those papales that's really like a stovepipe, because if you do something too angled, for instance, like this cowboy hats tend to have a lot of angle from the edge of the brim here and up to the crown. There's quite a steep angle on some of them. So if you put a fatter hat band, it may not look right. It may be too big, and the biggest thing is, like this one is full enough, but it's going to leave a gap here. There's going to be a big gap. So if you have something that's steep like this, then you're going to want to use a narrower band or something like a lokelani like this. So when I say narrower, usually it would be like this is narrower. And always clean up your hat band before you put it on. So a narrower hat band will look prettier on this. So just a bit of quick information. Like I said, all of these skinnier hats look really good with some type of a kamoe or lokelani. The lokelani on this is really pretty. So anyway, just a little quick lesson on measuring. Is it important? Yeah, because if it's too small, yeah, you can't make a hat band longer. If it's longer, you can make it smaller, but if there's a design like this particular hat band is 25 inches, it's made for a bigger hat, and it's designed so that this accent is on the left side of the hat. That's how we want it, because it's kind of like a fedora style, is what I call it. So I want this accent to be on the side of the hat like this. You see? And if it's too long, then it will end up coming back to the back here, or you'll have this big ugly flap. So I hope that's helpful. Again, just measure around the base of the crown where the crown and the brim meet, and that's going to give us the idea. If you have to give a head size, that's fine. I will typically, if someone can just measure the head because they don't have a hat, if they can get a head measurement, I'll usually add an inch or an inch and a half to the hat band to make sure that it will fit. If you have any questions, let me know. I hope that was helpful to some of you.